Don't go near him, the charge nurse hissed. That's Gam Sung-ho, Korean Mafia. Too late. I was already walking toward the man whose mother was dying. The man who would put a target on my back just by looking at me. I'm Nurse Beauregard, I said. His eyes met mine, and everything changed. If you can't stand people who think money and power mean they can disrespect healthcare workers, hit that subscribe button right now. Only the entitled and arrogant won't. Comment healthcare heroes if you believe every nurse deserves respect, no matter who walks through those doors. Chicago Memorial Hospital's ER hummed with its usual graveyard shift symphony, beeping monitors, hurried footsteps, muffled conversations. Lydia had been on her feet since 10 a.m. yesterday, her navy scrubs wrinkled, her natural coils escaping the bun she'd given up on fixing hours ago. She was reviewing labs for a pneumonia patient when the atmosphere shifted. It was subtle at first. Janet, the charge nurse who'd worked ER for 40 years and didn't rattle easily, went still. The security guard's hand moved closer to his radio. Then the whispers started. Is that? No way. Someone called Dr. Morrison. Lydia looked up to see the source of the disturbance. The man in the center wasn't just well-dressed. He wore power like a second skin. At 38, Gam Sung-ho had the kind of face that cameras loved and enemies feared. Sharp jawline, intelligent dark eyes that missed nothing, and an air of casual menace wrapped in a perfectly pressed Tom Ford suit despite the ungodly hour. A small tattoo of Korean characters ran vertically along the side of his neck, partially hidden by his collar. But right now, that carefully controlled facade showed cracks. His mother, tiny and lost-looking in the wheelchair, clutched her abdomen with trembling hands. Someone help my mother now. His voice carried the weight of someone used to immediate obedience. Korean accent barely present, but tension made his words clipped. Lydia didn't freeze. She dealt with too many entitled family members to be intimidated by expensive suits. Sir, I'm Nurse Beauregard. What are her symptoms? How long has she been in pain? Sung-ho's eyes locked onto hers. She saw surprise flicker across his features. Surprise and something else she couldn't name. Most people either cowered or postured around him. This woman did neither. Abdominal pain. Severe. Started 2 hours ago. His English was perfect. History of gallstones. Okay. Lydia was already moving, gesturing to a tech. Room 7. I need vitals for access and lab stat. Sir, you'll need to. I'm coming with her. Not a request. Lydia met his eyes again, seeing the fear he was trying to hide beneath authority. She'd seen it 1,000 times. Loved ones terrified of losing someone, wielding whatever power they had like armor against helplessness. Of course, she said softly. Stay by her head. Talk to her. She needs to hear your voice. Something shifted in his expression. His men moved to follow, but he raised a hand, stopping them with a single gesture. Wait here. As they moved toward room 7, Janet grabbed Lydia's arm, her grip tight. Do you know who that is? A man whose mother is in pain, Lydia said, pulling away. That's all I need to know right now. That's Gam Sung-ho, Janet hissed. The Gam Sung-ho. Korean mob. They say he controls half the south side. There was a shooting last month at one of his clubs. Then I guess we better give excellent care, hadn't we? Lydia's voice was calm, but her heart hammered. She'd heard the name before. Whispered in the ER when gang violence victims came in. Mentioned in news reports about organized crime. In room 7, Lydia worked with practiced efficiency, her hands gentle as she examined the elderly woman. Mrs. Gam, I'm Nurse Beauregard. I'm going to take good care of you. Can you tell me where it hurts most? The woman's response came in Korean, weak and pained. Sung-ho translated immediately, his hand holding his mother's with surprising tenderness. Right upper quadrant. The pain radiates to her back and right shoulder. Lydia nodded, already suspecting acute cholecystitis. We'll get imaging right away. Mrs. Gam, I'm going to give you something for the pain. She looked up at Sung-ho, noting how his jaw tightened. Sir, I need you to step back so we can get her in. My name is Gam Sung-ho. He said it like he expected recognition, perhaps deference. Lydia simply nodded, inserting the 4 with practiced precision. "Mr. Gam, your mother is in good hands. Dr. Morrison will be here shortly." For a man who commanded an empire built on fear and respect, being ordered around by an exhausted nurse in wrinkled scrubs should have been offensive. Instead, Sung-ho found himself obeying, watching as this woman, this beautiful, confident woman, worked with a calm competence that was somehow more commanding than any threat he could make. She was stunning, he realized, even in the harsh fluorescent light. Rich brown skin that seemed to glow despite her obvious exhaustion. Expressive dark eyes that softened when she spoke to his mother. Full lips curved in reassurance. When she leaned over to adjust the 4, he noticed the delicate gold cross at her throat, the way her scrubs couldn't quite hide the curves of her figure, the strength in her hands as she worked. "How long have you been on shift?" he asked suddenly. Lydia glanced at him, surprised by the question. "Since 10 yesterday morning." "Why? You should be exhausted." "I am." She checked his mother's vitals. "But your mother needs me alert, so I'm alert. That's the job." Before he could respond, Dr. Morrison burst in, a 50-something white man with silver hair and an expensive watch. He took one look at Sung-ho and his entire demeanor changed. The confident physician suddenly looked nervous. "Mr. Gam, I didn't realize. We'll take excellent care of your mother. The best care. I'll personally oversee." "Nurse Beauregard is doing fine," Sung-ho interrupted, his eyes never leaving Lydia. "Continue." Dr. Morrison blinked, then nodded rapidly. Of course. He began examining Gam, "Okay, son," but kept glancing at Sung-ho like a student being tested. Lydia watched the interaction with growing unease. The doctor's fear was palpable, which meant the whispers about Gam Sung-ho weren't exaggerated. This wasn't just some wealthy businessman. This was someone people were afraid of. She should be afraid too. But all she could think about was the gentle way he held his mother's hand, the vulnerability in his eyes when he looked at the woman who'd raised him. 2 hours later, Gam Ok-sun was admitted for emergency cholecystectomy. As they wheeled her to pre-op, Sung-ho stayed at her side, speaking softly in Korean. Lydia caught words she didn't understand but recognized the tone. Reassurance, love, fear masked as confidence. "She'll be okay," Lydia said quietly. "Dr. Morrison is an excellent surgeon. Your mother is strong." Sung-ho looked at her for a long moment. "You're not afraid of me." It wasn't a question, but Lydia answered anyway. "Should I be? Most people are." "I'm not most people." She met his gaze steadily. "And right now, you're not a scary mob boss. You're just a son who's terrified of losing his mother. I see that every day. It doesn't matter what suit you're wearing." Something flickered across his face, surprise, respect, and something warmer she couldn't name. "What time does your shift end?" "An hour ago. But I'm staying until your mother is out of surgery." "You don't have to." "I know." Lydia's voice was firm. "But I will. If you believe healthcare workers who treat everyone with dignity, regardless of who they are, deserve respect and support, comment heroes wear scrubs. The arrogant and the entitled won't. They think money means they're above basic human decency. Don't be like them. Show these heroes you see them." The surgery took 4 hours. Sung-ho paced the waiting room like a caged predator, his men maintaining a perimeter that made other families keep their distance. Lydia should have gone home after her shift ended 3 hours ago. Instead, she brought him coffee. "Black, no sugar," she said, handing him the cup. "You look like a black coffee person." He took it surprised. "How did you know?" "I didn't. But you seem like someone who doesn't like things complicated." She sat down, finally allowing herself to feel the exhaustion in her bones. "Your mother is strong. She's going to be fine." "You can't know that." "No," Lydia admitted. "But I believe it. And sometimes belief is what gets us through the waiting." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Sung-ho asked, "Why did you become a nurse? Why does anyone?" She smiled. "I wanted to help people." Cliché, I know. But when you're lying in a hospital bed, scared and vulnerable, someone who genuinely cares can make all the difference. I wanted to be that person. "And are you?" "That person. I try to be. Every day." She looked at him. "What about you? Why did you become whatever it is you are?" His laugh was dark. "I didn't have much choice. My father built an empire. When he died, I inherited it, along with all the enemies, all the responsibilities, all the blood. There's always a choice. Not in my world. His voice hardened. In my world, showing weakness gets you killed. Showing mercy gets your family killed. You do what you have to do to survive. That sounds exhausting. He looked at her, surprised again by her directness. It is. Before he could say more, Dr. Morrison appeared, still looking nervous despite the surgical cap covering his hair. Mr. Gam, the surgery was successful. Your mother is in recovery. She'll be moved to a private room within the hour. Sung-ho's relief was visible, though he tried to hide it. Thank you, doctor. Of course. Anything for her. She's in excellent condition considering. We'll monitor her closely. If you need anything at all, I'll let you know, Sung-ho interrupted, dismissing him with a nod. When the doctor scurried away, Lydia stood. I should go. My shift ended 4 hours ago, and I have another one starting in 8 hours. Wait. Sung-ho stood too, suddenly looking uncertain, an expression that seemed foreign on his face. I want to thank you for staying, for treating my mother like she mattered. She does matter. Every patient matters. Not everyone sees it that way. He pulled out a business card, expensive cream cardstock with minimal text, just a name and a phone number. If you ever need anything at all. Lydia took the card, reading the name embossed in elegant font. I'm a nurse, Mr. Gam. I don't usually need the kind of help you provide. Even nurses have problems sometimes. She should have thrown the card away. Should have walked out and never looked back. But something about the way he looked at her, like she was simultaneously the most dangerous and most precious thing he'd ever encountered, made her slip it into her pocket instead. Get some rest, she said. Your mother will want to see you strong, not exhausted. 3 days later, Lydia was checking on post-op patients when she walked into Gam Sung-ho's private room and found it transformed. Flowers covered every surface. Not the standard hospital arrangements, but expensive orchids and roses that must have cost thousands. A Korean meal in proper ceramic dishes sat on a table, far superior to hospital food. And Sung-ho sat beside his mother's bed, reading to her in Korean for what looked like a poetry book. He looked up when Lydia entered, and his face transformed. The cold mask he wore around others melted into something warmer. Nurse Beauregard. Mr. Gam. She moved to check Sung's vitals, tried to ignore how her heart rate picked up. How are you feeling today, Mrs. Gam? Sung responded in Korean, and Sung-ho translated. She says you're very beautiful, and she wants to know if you're married. Lydia felt heat rise in her cheeks. Tell your mother I'm flattered, but I'm here in a professional capacity. She also says I should ask you to dinner. Mr. Gam. Sung-ho. Please. Lydia finished checking the monitors, very aware of his eyes on her. Your mother just had surgery. You should be focused on her recovery, not asking out her nurse. I'm very good at multitasking. His voice held a hint of amusement. And my mother insists. She says any woman who stays 4 hours past her shift to make sure an old Korean woman is okay deserves a proper thank you. I was doing my job. You were doing more than your job. He stood, moving closer. Have dinner with me. Just dinner. As a thank you. Lydia should have said no. Should have cited hospital policy about fraternizing with patients' families. Should have remembered that this man was dangerous, possibly deadly, definitely not someone she should get involved with. But she thought about the gentle way he held his mother's hand, the vulnerability in his eyes during the surgery, the way he looked at her like she was something precious in a world that had taught him to value nothing. One dinner, she heard herself say, somewhere public, and if at any point I feel uncomfortable, I leave. No questions asked. Agreed. His smile was genuine, transforming his face. Friday? After your shift? Friday. What was she doing? But Mr. Gam, Sung-ho, I need you to understand something. I'm not impressed by money or power. I've seen too many people in hospital beds to think wealth makes anyone invincible. If we're going to have dinner, it's just two people having a conversation. Nothing more. Nothing more, he agreed. But the way he looked at her suggested he was already hoping for much, much more. That night, as Lydia drove home in her beat-up Honda Civic, she couldn't stop thinking about the way Sung-ho had smiled at her. like she was sunlight, and he'd been living in darkness for far too long. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Nurse Beauregard. The voice was smooth, accented differently than Sung-ho's. My name is Park Jin-woo. I work for the Kim family. We've noticed your association with Gam Sung-ho. Lydia's blood ran cold. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't play stupid. It's unbecoming. Jin-woo's voice hardened. The Kim family and the Gam family have a complicated history. We'd hate to see a nice nurse like you caught in the crossfire. Stay away from Sung-ho. For your own safety. The line went dead. Lydia sat in her car, hands shaking on the steering wheel. This was why she should have thrown that card away. This was why she should have said no to dinner. But a part of her, the part that had chosen nursing because she couldn't stand to see people suffer, wondered if Sung-ho had anyone in his life who saw him as human, who saw past the power and the danger to the man underneath. She pulled out his card and sent a text. Had a disturbing phone call. We need to talk before Friday. The response came immediately. Are you safe? Where are you? I'm fine. Just concerned. Address. Now. She hesitated, then sent it. 20 minutes later, headlights flooded her driveway. But it wasn't the expensive car she expected. Sung-ho arrived on a motorcycle, helmet under his arm, dressed in jeans and a leather jacket that made him look younger, less dangerous. He was at her door in seconds. What happened? Are you hurt? I'm fine, but someone from the Kim family called me. Warned me to stay away from you. She crossed her arms. I need to know what I'm getting into. Because if having one dinner with you means getting threatening phone calls, maybe we should cancel. Sung-ho's face darkened with rage. The Kims have no right to threaten you. They're trying to get to me through anyone I care about. I'll handle it. Handle it how? He didn't answer, which was answer enough. This is what I mean, Lydia said. I can't date someone. I can't even have dinner with someone when handling it means violence. I became a nurse to save lives, not be complicit in taking them. You won't be complicit in anything. His voice was intense. I would never let my world touch you. Never. But it already has. One dinner that hasn't even happened yet, and I'm getting threatening phone calls. What happens if we actually see each other again? What happens if, she stopped herself. If what? He stepped closer. If you start to care about me? If I start to care about you? Because I have to tell you, Lydia, that ship has already sailed. I haven't stopped thinking about you for 3 days. And that scares me more than any enemy I've ever faced. Lydia's breath caught. You can't say things like that. Why not? It's the truth. His hands came up to frame her face, gentle despite their strength. I know I'm dangerous. I know my life is complicated. But when you looked at me in that ER, you didn't see a monster. You saw a scared son. Do you know how rare that is? How precious? Sung-ho, cancel the dinner. I understand. But don't disappear from my life entirely. Let me at least see you when I visit my mother. Let me have those few minutes of being just a man, not a boss. Not a killer. Just. Sung-ho. She should have said no. Should have closed the door and blocked his number. But standing there, looking into eyes that had seen too much darkness and were desperately seeking light, Lydia found herself nodding. Okay, but we set boundaries. Clear ones. And the moment I feel unsafe, I'm out. Fair enough. He smiled. It was like watching sunrise. Can I ask you something? What? How did you become so brave? Lydia laughed. I'm not brave. I'm terrified right now. But you're still here. That's brave. He stepped back, giving her space. I should go. But Lydia, thank you for not running. After he left, Lydia leaned against her closed door, heart racing. She had just agreed to let a Mafia boss in her life. A man who solved problems with violence. A man who had enemies who would see her as leverage. But she also thought about the poetry book he'd been reading to his mother. The gentleness in his hands when he held OK Son's fingers. The way he looked at Lydia like she was hope incarnated. Maybe, just maybe, there was more to Gam Sung-ho than the monster everyone else saw. Or maybe she was making the biggest mistake of her life. Comment: no one deserves threatening calls for choosing compassion. If you think the Kim family crossed a line. If you believe healthcare workers should be left alone and that threatening innocent people makes you a coward, hit that subscribe button. Only manipulators and bullies won't. Stand with Lydia. Stand for what's right. Friday came faster than Lydia expected. She'd almost canceled 12 times, talked herself out of it, then talked herself back in. Simone, her best friend and fellow nurse, had opinions. Girl, you were playing with fire. Simone sat on Lydia's bed, watching her try on the third outfit in 20 minutes. An actual mobster. Not a bad boy. Not a guy with a motorcycle. A man who probably has bodies buried somewhere. You don't know that, and you don't know he doesn't. Simone's voice softened. I'm not saying he's not attractive. Those cheekbones could cut glass. And the way he looks at you like you hung the moon, that's powerful stuff. But Lydia, when you said you wanted more excitement in your life, I thought you meant salsa dancing. Not dating someone who has enemies. It's just dinner. With a man who has guards. Who intimidates doctors. Who gets threatening phone calls from rival gangs. Simone grabbed her hand. I love you, and I'm scared for you. Lydia was scared too, but she also couldn't stop thinking about Sung-ho's visit to her house. The vulnerability in his voice when he asked her not to disappear. The way he'd called her brave. One dinner. If it's weird or uncomfortable, I'm out. I promise. Simone sighed. Fine, but you text me every hour. And if I don't hear from you, I'm calling the cops. Deal. Sung-ho picked her up in a Mercedes that probably cost more than her entire apartment building. But he didn't have guards. Didn't have an entourage. Just him, in a simple black suit that somehow made him look both more and less dangerous. You look beautiful, he said when she opened the door, and the sincerity in his voice made her blush. Thank you. You look less intimidating than usual. He laughed. I'm taking that as a compliment. The restaurant was Korean, intimate, but not pretentious. The owner greeted Sung-ho with a bow that suggested familiarity, then seated them at a private corner table. I thought you might like to try real Korean food, Sung-ho explained. Not the Americanized versions. My mother's recipes. Your mother cooks? Used to, before arthritis made it difficult. But she taught the owner of this place everything she knew. He ordered in Korean, a rapid conversation that made Lydia realize how little she actually knew about him. Tell me about your mother, she said when the owner left. Not the patient. The person. Sung-ho's face softened. She's the strongest woman I know. Came to America with nothing but a suitcase and a dream. Worked 3 jobs to put my father through business school. When he started the organization, she was against it. They fought for years. But she never left him. Never left me. She sounds incredible. She is. And she's obsessed with you. His eyes sparkled with amusement. Keeps asking when you're visiting. Says you have kind hands. I try. The food arrived, course after course of incredible dishes Lydia couldn't name. Sung-ho explained each one, teaching her how to use chopsticks properly, laughing when she dropped kimchi on her lap. This is nice, Lydia said, surprising herself. Normal. I was expecting bodyguards, bulletproof glass, a table near the exit. His voice held bitter amusement. That's my usual life. But tonight, I wanted to just be Sung-ho. A man having dinner with a woman who fascinates him. I fascinate you. Terrify me, actually. He set down his chopsticks. I haven't felt like this since I was 20. Before I inherited the organization. Before I learned that caring about someone makes them a target. Is that what the Kim family threat was about? Because you care about me? His jaw tightened. The Kims in my family have been at war for 3 generations. My grandfather killed Kim Dong-woo's father over a shipping dispute. His family has been trying to destroy mine ever since. If they think you matter to me, they'll use you to get to me. So, I'm already a target. Even if we never see each other again after tonight. I've increased security on you. You won't see them, but they're there. And I've made it clear to the Kims that you're under my protection. Anyone who touches you answers to me. Lydia should have been angry. Should have objected to decisions made without her consent. But a part of her was relieved. Why are you telling me this? Why not just protect me without me knowing? Because you deserve the truth. Because I'm asking you to consider letting me into your life, and you need to know what that means. He leaned forward. I can't promise you safety. I can't promise you normal. But I can promise you honesty. And I can promise that I will do everything in my power to keep you safe. What do you get out of this? I'm a nurse. I work 16-hour shifts and eat ramen for dinner half the week. I can't offer you anything your world values. You offer me something my world has never given me. His voice was intense. You see me, not the boss, not the power, just me. Do you know how rare that is? How lonely it is to have people fear you, respect you, obey you, but never actually see you. Lydia's heart ached at the vulnerability in his voice. I do see you. That's the problem. I see a man who reads poetry to his mother, who stays by her bedside for hours, who's gentle with vulnerable people, but terrifying to those who threaten them. I see complexity, and that makes it hard to walk away. Then don't. Walk toward me instead. Let's see where this goes. She should have said no, should have protected herself. But sitting there, watching the way candlelight played across his features, seeing the hope in his eyes, Lydia found herself reaching across the table to take his hand. Slow, she said. We go slow, and we set rules. I won't compromise my values. I won't be complicit in violence. And if at any point I feel like I'm losing myself, I walk away. Fair enough. His thumb traced circles on her palm. But Lydia, I'm not letting you go easily. Just so you know, the next 3 weeks were a strange kind of bliss. Sung-ho visited his mother daily, always timing it to Lydia's shifts. They'd have coffee in the cafeteria, talk about everything and nothing. He told her about growing up in two worlds, Korean tradition and American ambition. She told him about nursing school, about the patients who'd changed her, about the exhaustion that came from caring so much. But the real world kept intruding. One afternoon, Lydia walked into the break room to find two nurses whispering. Dating Gam Sung-ho. Mafia money. What kind of nurse associates with criminals? They fell silent when they saw her. But the damage was done. Dr. Morrison called her into his office that evening. Lydia, I need to talk to you about your association with Mr. Gam. My personal life isn't hospital business. It is when it affects patient care. Other staff members are uncomfortable. They're concerned about, he struggled for words, about what his presence means for hospital safety. His presence means his mother gets the care she needs. And he's been nothing but respectful to staff. He's also a known criminal. We have policies about. Show me the policy that says I can't have personal relationships with patients' families. Show me where it says I should discriminate based on someone's reputation. Lydia's voice was steel. Or admit this is about fear and prejudice. Dr. Morrison blinked. I'm just saying you should be careful. For your own sake. I appreciate your concern. But I'm a grown woman who makes her own choices. She walked out before he could respond, but her hands were shaking. This was what Sung-ho had warned her about. The way his world infected everything it touched. That night, Sung-ho took her to his family's restaurant. Not the public one, but the private back room where he conducted business. She met his organization formally. 20 men and 3 women, all dressed in expensive suits, all watching her with varying degrees of suspicion. This is Lydia Beauregard, Sung-ho said, his hand at the small of her back. She is under my protection. That means she is under our protection. Anyone who threatens her, anyone who disrespects her, answers to me. Understood. A chorus of acknowledgement rippled through the room. But one man stepped forward, older, scarred, with eyes that had seen too much death. With respect, boss, is this wise? The Kims are already watching her. Bringing her deeper into the organization puts a target on her back. The target's already there, Min-jun. This way, she has protection. Or, the man said carefully, this way, the Kims know exactly how much she means to you. And they'll use that knowledge. Sung-ho's face hardened. Are you questioning my judgment? I'm protecting you, like I've done since you were 18 years old. Min-jun's voice was firm. This woman is a civilian. A good woman, for what I hear. Is it fair to her to drag her into our world? Is it fair to put her at risk because you're lonely? The room went silent. Lydia could feel the tension. Everyone waiting to see how Sung-ho would respond to such direct challenge. But before he could speak, Lydia stepped forward. You're right. I am a civilian, and this world terrifies me. But here's what I know. Your boss is a human being who deserves love and happiness as much as anyone. And I can choose for myself whether the risk is worth it. Don't use my safety as an excuse to keep him isolated and alone. Min-jun's eyebrows rose. Then, surprisingly, he smiled. She's got fire. I like that. He bowed slightly to Lydia. You have courage, Miss Beauregard. You're going to need it. The meeting continued, but Lydia barely heard it. She was too busy processing the reality of what she'd just stepped into. These weren't just people who worked for Sung-ho. They were a family, bound by blood and loyalty and shared violence. And she was now part of that family, whether she was ready or not. Later, as Sung-ho drove her home, she asked, "What did Min-jun mean? About me needing courage?" Sung-ho was quiet for a long moment. "The Kim family isn't going to ignore you. They're going to test me through you. Try to scare you away. If that doesn't work..." He didn't finish the sentence. "If that doesn't work, they'll escalate." "Yes. And you can't stop them. Not without starting a war. I can minimize the risk, but I can't eliminate it." He pulled over, turned to face her. "Lydia, I need you to understand something. Loving me is dangerous. Being with me is dangerous. If you want out, tell me now, before we go any further. Before I fall so completely for you that I can't think straight." Before. Lydia's voice was soft. "Sung-ho, I think we passed before 3 weeks ago. Then what do?" She took his hand. "We be careful. We be smart. And we don't let fear keep us from living. Because if the Kim family can control your life through threats, they've already won." He pulled her close, pressing his forehead to hers. "You're either the bravest woman I've ever met, or the most foolish. Maybe both." She kissed him softly, feeling him tense with surprise before he melted into it. When they pulled apart, she whispered, "I'm not going anywhere. Not yet. Not unless you give me a reason to. I'll try not to." But even as he said it, both of them knew it was only a matter of time before the Kim family made their move. If you think threatening innocent people to settle old grudges makes someone a coward, comment, "Leave civilians alone." If you believe using fear to control others is the mark of a bully, hit subscribe. Only the cruel and the manipulative won't. Stand against the Kim family. Stand for what's right. Let's see who's really on the side of justice. The attack came on a Tuesday. Lydia was leaving her late shift, exhausted from a brutal 14 hours in the ER. The parking garage was nearly empty, her footsteps echoing as she walked to her car. She didn't see them until it was too late. 3 men, emerging from the shadows. Not Sung-ho's guards. She'd learned to recognize their subtle presence. These were different, rougher, scarier. Lydia Beauregard. The leader smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "We need to talk about your boyfriend." She backed up, hand going for her phone. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't lie. It's insulting." He moved closer. "The Kim family sent us. We have a message for Gam Sung-ho. You're going to deliver it." "I'm not delivering anything. And I'm calling security." One of the men grabbed her phone, crushing it under his boot. Fear spiked through Lydia's chest, sharp and immediate. She'd taken self-defense classes, but 3 trained fighters? She didn't like her odds. "We can do this easy or hard," the leader said. "Easy, you come with us quietly. We hold you for a few hours, make Sung-ho sweat, then let you go. Hard, we drag you. Either way, you're coming." Lydia's mind raced. She could scream, but who would hear in an empty garage? She could run, but they'd catch her. She could fight, but she'd lose. So she did something they didn't expect. She started talking. "You know I'm a nurse, right?" Her voice was steadier than she felt. "Emergency medicine. I save lives for a living. Multiple lives, every shift. You take me, you're not just hurting Sung-ho. You're hurting every patient who needs me tomorrow. Every person who'll code while I'm gone. Every child who'll come in scared and alone." The leader hesitated. Just a fraction. But Lydia saw it. And for what? To send a message to a man you've never met? Because your boss has a grudge that's older than you are? She looked each man in the eye. "You seem like intelligent people. You really want innocent patients dying because you needed to prove a point?" "Shut up," one of the men growled. But there was uncertainty in his voice. "Think about it. If I disappear, the hospital reports it. Police get involved. FBI, maybe, since it's kidnapping. Media covers it. Beautiful nurse abducted from hospital parking garage. Suddenly, your quiet gang war isn't quiet anymore. Is that what Kim Dong-woo wants? Federal attention? Investigation?" The leader's jaw tightened. "You're stalling. I'm giving you a chance to make a smart decision instead of a stupid one." Lydia forced herself to stay calm. "Go back to your boss. Tell him threatening me won't work. Tell him I'm not afraid. Tell him. She never finished the sentence. Headlights flooded the garage. A black SUV screeched to a halt, and Sung-ho emerged like something out of a nightmare. No guards. Just him. And he was terrifying. Step away from her. His voice was ice. Now. The three men looked at each other, weighing their options. Then the leader shrugged. She's all yours, Gam. For now. But Kim Dong-woo sends his regards. They walked away, melting into the shadows. Sung-ho didn't relax until they were gone. Then he was at Lydia's side, hands gentle as they checked her for injuries. Are you hurt? Did they touch you? I'm fine. Just scared. Her voice shook now that the adrenaline was fading. How did you know? Your car has a tracker. When you didn't move for 10 minutes after your shift ended, I got worried. He pulled her against his chest, and she felt him trembling. God, Lydia, if they'd taken you. But they didn't, because I talked them out of it. He pulled back to look at her, something like awe in his eyes. You talked them out of it. I pointed out the consequences. Made them think. It won't work forever, but work tonight. She was shaking now, the reality of what had almost happened crashing over her. Sung-ho, they were going to take me. Use me against you. I know. His voice was rough with emotion. And I can't let that happen. I can't put you at risk like this. There was something in his tone that made Lydia's stomach drop. What are you saying? I'm saying this was a mistake. Us. I was selfish. I wanted you so badly that I ignored the danger. But seeing those men near you, knowing what they could have done, he stepped back, and the physical distance felt like a chasm. You should stay away from me. For your own safety. Sung-ho, I mean it, Lydia. This thing between us, it's over. I won't risk your life for my happiness. I won't be that selfish. Anger flared through her fear. You don't get to make that decision for me. I just did. His mask was back. The warm man she'd come to know replaced by the cold boss everyone else saw. Go home. Forget about me. Live your life. And if I don't want to, then you're a fool. He turned away, heading back to his car. Goodbye, Lydia. She stood there in the empty garage, watching him drive away, and felt something break inside her chest. He was pushing her away to protect her, being noble and self-sacrificing and completely idiotic. But she also understood why. Because she'd seen the terror in his eyes when he'd found those men near her. Seen how close he'd come to losing control, to becoming the monster everyone thought he was. Maybe he was right. Maybe loving him was too dangerous. Or maybe danger was just the price of something real. 2 weeks passed. The longest 2 weeks of Lydia's life. She threw herself into work, pulling double shifts, volunteering for the worst cases. Anything to not think about Sung-ho. Anything to not remember the way he'd looked at her like she was precious. The way his voice had softened when he talked about his mother. The way he'd kissed her like she was oxygen and he was drowning. But the hurt wouldn't go away, and neither would the anger. Simone found her crying in the break room on day 12. Oh, honey, talk to me. He's an idiot, Lydia sobbed. A complete idiot. Men usually are. But what did this particular idiot do? He pushed me away to protect me. Decided I couldn't handle the risk. Made the choice for both of us. And you're heartbroken. I'm furious. I survived 4 years of nursing school. I survived being broke and exhausted and doubted. I save lives every single day. And he thinks I can't handle loving him? He thinks I'm too fragile for his dangerous world. Simone was quiet for a moment. So what are you going to do about it? What can I do? He made his choice. Did he? Or did he make a choice out of fear and trauma? Because from what you've told me, this man has lost everyone he's ever cared about. Maybe pushing you away is just his way of not losing you too. Lydia wiped her eyes. What are you saying? I'm saying you could let him push you away. Play it safe. Protect your heart. Simone squeezed her hand. Or you could fight for him. Show him that love doesn't have to end in loss. That some things are worth the risk. He could get me killed. You could get killed crossing the street. Or staying in the ER when an active shooter comes in. Or just existing as a woman in this world. Simone's eyes were gentle. Life has no guarantees, Lydia. But I've watched you these past 2 weeks. You're miserable. And so is he, according to the nurses who've seen him visiting his mother. So the question is, are you going to let fear win? Lydia thought about Sung-ho reading poetry to his mother. Thought about the way he'd trembled when he'd held her in that parking garage. Thought about the vulnerability in his voice when he'd asked her not to disappear from his life. "No," she said quietly. "No, I'm not." She found him at his mother's bedside. Gam Sung-ho had been readmitted with post-surgical complications. Minor, but enough to warrant monitoring. Sung-ho looked terrible, thinner. Shadows under his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. A bruise on his jaw that was fading, but still visible. He looked up when she entered, shock flickering across his features before his mask slammed down. "Dr. Morrison is handling my mother's care. He's in surgery. You get me." She moved to check Sung's vitals, hyper-aware of his presence. "Infection in the surgical site. She needs 4 antibiotics. Whatever you recommend." They worked in silence, Lydia giving orders to nurses, Sung-ho hovering anxiously. When Sun was settled and sleeping, Lydia followed him to the hallway. "You look terrible." He did, exhausted and haunted. "I'm fine. You're a liar." She crossed her arms. "And you're a coward." His eyes flashed. "Excuse me. You heard me. You're terrified of being happy. Terrified of letting someone love you. So you push me away, using my safety as an excuse." She stepped closer. "But here's the thing, Sung-ho. I've spent 2 weeks being safe, and I've been miserable. So I'll take dangerous and happy over safe and hollow any day." "Lydia, I'm not done." Her voice was steel. "You don't get to decide what risks I take. You don't get to push me away for my own good. If I want to be with a man who has enemies and complications, that's my choice. My risk to take. You could die. You almost died. I could die crossing the street tomorrow. I could die in the ER from an angry patient. I could die from 1,000 random things." She softened, cupping his face. "But I guarantee that these last 2 weeks without you have been hell. So stop protecting me from yourself, and just let me in." He broke. His arms came around her, crushing her against him, his face buried in her neck. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought I was doing the right thing. I know, but you're not alone anymore. We figure this out together." She held him as tightly as he held her. "Together. Okay. Together," he whispered into her hair. "God, I missed you. I missed you too. You impossible man." They stood there in the hospital hallway, 2 broken people choosing to be whole together. And, somehow, that felt like the bravest thing either of them had ever done. Sun watched from her bed, smiling despite her pain, already planning their wedding in her mind. If you believe people deserve the right to choose their own risks, comment love over fear. If you think pushing someone away for their own good is just emotional cowardice, hit subscribe. Only those who choose fear over courage won't. Stand with Lydia. Stand with anyone who's fought for love despite the risk. Show them they're not alone. Let's build a community that chooses bravery. 6 months later, everything had changed. Lydia stood in the kitchen of Sung-ho's penthouse, their penthouse now, teaching Gam Sung how to make her grandmother's sweet potato pie. Sung had fully recovered and had appointed herself Lydia's personal Korean cooking instructor, a role she took extremely seriously. "No, like this," Sung demonstrated, her hands moving with practiced ease through the dough. "You must feel it." "No, when it's ready." "I'm trying. How many?" Lydia laughed, flour dusting her nose and apron. "But I think cooking might not be my gift." "Love is your gift. Cooking we can teach." Sung squeezed her hand. "You brought my son back to life. That is greater than any recipe." From the living room, Sung-ho watched them, Min-jun standing beside him. "You're smiling," Min-jun observed. "It's disturbing." "Shut up." "No, seriously. You look almost human. Should I call a doctor?" Min-jun's teasing had an edge of genuine warmth. "Though I suppose your doctor is covered in flour and murdering your mother's recipe." "I heard that," Lydia called out, making both men laugh. Life had changed in 6 months. After the attempted kidnapping, Sung-ho had done what he did best. He'd handled it. The details were something Lydia didn't ask about, respecting the boundary between his world and hers. But she knew that the Kim family had backed off, that a truce had been negotiated, that she could walk to her car without fear. She'd moved in after 3 months, bringing her threadbare furniture and mountains of medical textbooks. She'd taken self-defense classes, learned to recognize Sung-ho's security team, studied the signals that meant danger. She'd set clear boundaries. She still worked at the hospital, still maintained her own identity, refused to be just the boss's girlfriend. And Sung-ho had respected every boundary, even when it killed him to let her walk into potential danger. They'd have fights, spectacular ones, usually about his overprotectiveness or her stubborn independence. But they'd also had quiet mornings drinking coffee, late nights talking about everything, moments of perfect peace. She'd met the organization properly now, carefully and formally, with Sung-ho establishing clear rules about respect. Most have been wary at first, but her refusal to be intimidated and her genuine care for their boss had won over even the skeptics. Min-jun had become an unexpected ally, teaching her about Sung-ho's world while respecting her determination to stay true to her own values. The hospital had been harder. Some staff still whispered. Some looked at her differently. But Dr. Morrison had eventually come around, especially after Lydia saved his daughter's life during a particularly bad car accident. Turns out, competence and compassion earned respect even when your boyfriend was a mobster. Sung-ho, his mother called. Come taste. He obeyed, accepting the spoon offered with exaggerated ceremony. The pie filling was actually pretty good. Not perfect, but good. Acceptable, he declared with mock seriousness. Acceptable. Lydia threw a dish towel at him. It's delicious. It's acceptable, he repeated, grinning as he pulled her close despite his mother's laughing protests about getting flour on his clothes. But you're perfect, so I suppose I can live with acceptable pie. Later that night, wrapped in each other in the darkness of their bedroom, Lydia whispered, happy. Terrifyingly so, Sung-ho admitted, his fingers tracing patterns on her skin. You completely destroyed my carefully ordered life, you know. Made everything complicated and messy and uncertain. And I've never been happier. He kissed her softly. Thank you. For not running. For choosing me despite everything. For being brave enough for both of us when I was too scared to hope. I'm still scared sometimes, Lydia confessed. When you come home late. When I see the news about gang violence. When I think about how quickly everything could change. Me too. Every time you walk out the door for a shift. Every time my phone rings at 3 a.m. Every time I think about how my world could hurt you. He pulled her closer. But being scared together is better than being safe and alone. Much better. She kissed him, deep and slow. Though I have to say, your mother is getting impatient. She keeps asking when we're getting married. Sung-ho stilled. And what do you think about that? I think. Lydia propped herself up on one elbow, looking down at him in the moonlight streaming through the windows. I think I used to have a very specific plan for my life. Meet someone safe, someone predictable, someone my parents would approve of, get married in a church, have 2.5 kids, white picket fence. And now I'm dating a Korean mob boss who reads poetry and can't cook to save his life. I have security guards I'm not supposed to see. I know more about gang politics than I ever wanted to. My parents think I'm insane, and they're probably right. She smiled, and I've never felt more alive, more myself, more loved. So, is that a yes? That's a ask me properly and we'll see, Lydia teased. Sung-ho laughed, rolling them so she was beneath him. Lydia Beauregard, will you marry me? Will you bind yourself to a complicated, dangerous, deeply flawed man who loves you more than he thought he was capable of loving anyone? Will you trust me with your heart, even though my hands are stained with blood? Will you let me spend the rest of my life trying to deserve you? Lydia felt tears prick her eyes. That was beautiful. And yes to all of it. The complications, the danger, the flaws. All of it. Because you're also gentle and loyal and capable of more love than you give yourself credit for. And I choose you. I will always choose you. He kissed her then, deep and desperate and full of promise. And in that moment, both of them knew they'd made the right choice. Not the safe choice. Not the easy choice. But the right one. For both of them. The next morning, at the hospital, Lydia was checking a patient's chart when she noticed a new nurse. Young, pretty, watching Lydia with barely concealed contempt. "Can I help you?" Lydia asked politely. "I just think it's interesting," the girl said, loud enough for others to hear, "that some people get ahead by who they're dating rather than actual merit." The break room went silent. Lydia set down her chart very carefully. "You're new here, so let me help you understand something. I got this job by graduating top of my class. I keep this job by saving lives. My relationship status has nothing to do with my competence. Are we clear? I just mean, I know what you meant. And here's what I'm telling you. My personal life is none of your business. My professional skills speak for themselves. And if you have a problem with me, we can take it to Dr. Morrison. Otherwise, I suggest you focus on learning to do your job rather than gossiping about mine." The girl flushed and hurried out. Janet, the veteran nurse, clapped slowly. "Well said. Though you know this won't be the last time someone judges you." "I know." Lydia picked up her chart again. "But I'm tired of apologizing for choosing love. For choosing a complicated, imperfect man who makes me happy. People are going to judge no matter what I do. I might as well be happy while they're at it." Janet smiled. "He's a lucky man. I'm the lucky one." And Lydia meant it. That evening, Sung-ho proposed properly, on the hospital rooftop where they'd had their first real conversation. With his mother and Min-jun hiding in the stairwell, probably crying. With a ring that was beautiful but not ostentatious, because he knew she'd refuse anything too flashy. "Yes," Lydia said before he could even finish the question. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." Min-jun and OK-sun erupted from the stairwell, cheering. Sung-ho's men, stationed around the rooftop for security, tried to maintain their professional composure but were clearly smiling. And Lydia thought about how far they'd come. From that terrifying 2:47 a.m. meeting in the ER to this moment. From fear to trust. From danger to safety. From loneliness to love. She'd chosen the dangerous path. The complicated path. The path that required courage and compromise and constant communication. But looking at Sung-ho's face, at the joy and love and wonder shining in his eyes, Lydia knew she'd choose it again. Every single time. Because some things were worth the risk. And Gam Sung-ho was worth everything. Comment, love takes courage. If you believe choosing the difficult but rewarding path takes more strength than playing it safe. If you think people who judge others for their choices are the real cowards, hit that subscribe button. Only the small-minded and judgmental won't. Stand with Lydia and Sung-ho. Stand with everyone who's chosen love over fear, courage over safety. Let's build a community that celebrates bravery in all its forms. Because that's what real strength looks like.